Hello to my friends at Dyersburg Primary School. My name is Vanessa Kane. I'm the Children's Director here at MacIver's Grant Public Library, and I'm here to share a book with you today that goes along with your theme, Nature All Around Us, or Weather. This book is called Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and is written by Judi Barrett. I always say that wrong. Barrett. Judi Barrett wrote this book, and it is illustrated by Ron Barrett. Have you ever seen it rain meatballs? Do you think that's something that would really happen? This book was published by Aladdin Paperbacks. Miss Vanessa got a paperback this time. See how you can bend the cover? They're a little more fragile, paperbacks are, so we don't have so many of them at the library because we have to have real sturdy books because a lot of different people use them. But sometimes we get these that are paperbacks. I bet you've got some in your classroom. We're all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could each eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. This book, can you see how the illustrations are all black and white? Only color in this picture is where the words are that you're reading. Can you see Grandpa flipping the pancakes? And can you see our friends arguing? And Mother squeezing that orange juice. Yum, yum. Seconds later, something flew through the air and headed toward the kitchen ceiling and landed. What do you think it was that flew through the air and headed toward the kitchen ceiling and landed right on Henry? What was it? It was a pancake. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. And there they all are eating their pancakes. Do you like pancakes for breakfast? What's your favorite thing to eat for breakfast? Do you like cereal or eggs or pancakes or French toast? Waffles? Muffins? That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall tale bedtime story he had ever told. What's a tall tale? Do you know what a tall tale is? A tall tale is something that is probably not true. It's probably just, it's a big, outlandish, wild story. And I love tall tales. We'll have to do one next time. We have another time when we get to meet. Here's Grandpa's tall tale. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there lay the little town of Chew and Swallow. If you look at these pictures, remember how they're black and white? Just right here had color where we were reading in the other pages. And look, I see some color coming in. Oh, and look, as he tells the story, look at the colors coming in to tell you about the town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, and a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. That looks like a pretty normal town, doesn't it? It does. Very colorful. We've got colorful pictures now. But there were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they wanted. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was the weather. It came in 3 times a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everybody ate came from the sky. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine getting your dinner from the sky? What do you think you would get from the sky? Let's find out. Whatever the weather served was what they ate. But it never rained rain, and it never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas, and sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. Have you ever been in a hamburger windstorm? There's the soup and the juice. There's the peas. And there's the hamburgers. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates and cups and glasses and forks and spoons and knives and napkins with them. That way, they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, people took them home and put them in the refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. Look at all of those storms. Can you see? Looks like he's got a lot of soup in his umbrella. And let's see, she's trying to catch some chicken. And it looks like it's raining pie. Would you like for it to rain pie? And, oh, there's more pancakes. Just like Grandpa's pancakes. But a lot more than one flying through the air. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny-side eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast, butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. That is a very healthy breakfast. They had juice and milk and sunny-side-up eggs and toast and jelly and butter. For lunch one day, frankfurters already in their rolls blew in from the northwest about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby, and then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. That sounds like a yummy lunch. I don't know, though. I don't know that I would like for it to rain mustard on me. What do you think? Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by a gradual clearing with the wonderful Jell-O setting in the west. This is a silly book, isn't it? I like this tall tale. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove all the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned up things after every meal and fed all of the dogs and cats. And then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for people's flower gardens. Look at all of that food that nobody got to eat because it just fell past them. I see the dogs and cats waiting for their dinner. I like that garbage truck. Do you like it? See how it's a spoon and a fork? That's pretty cool, isn't it? Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. There's a newspaper thing that says, "Spaghetti ties up the town." One day was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. That's a very smelly cheese. You see everybody has clothespins on their nose. The next day there was only broccoli, all overcooked. Ooh, look at that broccoli. I don't like soggy broccoli. And the next day were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Another day there was a pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. There's a pea soup fog. That's kind of funny because a lot of times people say that fog is thicker than pea soup, so they did a little play on words there, didn't they? The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they'd ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. Look at all that bread. I don't think I would like to have my food come down in the weather. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but it just stayed there and got staler and staler. Then there were a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. Can you imagine closing the school because it has a pancake on top of it? Do you like this book? I like this book. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream, cheese, and jelly sandwiches. Everybody ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomach ache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many of the houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up and there was no more school for the children. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. Look at all of those big food items. Look how big those donuts are. Oh my goodness. Big hamburgers. They're just tearing up the town. What's flying through the sky? It looks like steaks. Snakes flying through the sky. There's a pickle through that house. The people glued together the giant pieces of stale bread sandwich style with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their rafts for new land. I don't think I would want to sail on a raft made of bread. I don't think it would last very long, but that's pretty stale bread, it might. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. Can you see those houses made of bread? Uh-oh. See how our color is all bright and it's starting to get black and white again. There's Grandpa and our friends. The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in this new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at the supermarket. They found it odd that food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes and cans and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again. And nobody dared go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his good night kiss. That is a good tall tale. Do you like that tall tale? Can you think of a tale you might want to make that's like that? That makes something funny out of the weather, how they combine the food and the weather? Could you do something similar to that? The next morning we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. Oh, how fun. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. They're there sledding. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell mashed potatoes. See how all that snow looks like mashed potatoes, and see how the sun looks like butter. That's so cool. I bet that's what started this whole story. What do you think? The end. Would you like it if it rained spaghetti and meatballs? I want you to think of 2 funny things that you can combine and make a funny tall tale story. I hope you have a good day. Be good for your teachers.